The elevator climbed to the 42nd floor with agonizing slowness, each floor marking another second closer to what Adrian Blackwood believed would be my complete destruction. I adjusted the cheap blazer I'd worn deliberately for 3 years, maintaining the facade of Elena Martinez, junior financial analyst. Today, that mask would finally come off. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas Sterling. "Are you sure about this? Once you reveal yourself, there's no going back." I typed back quickly. "I've been planning this for 3 years. Adrian Blackwood is about to learn what happens when you underestimate the wrong woman." The elevator doors opened to reveal Adrian's executive floor, all glass and steel, designed to intimidate. Sophia stood waiting for me, her designer heels clicking against the marble as she approached. Her perfectly styled black hair framed a face that had perfected the art of looking down on others, even when they were taller. "Elena," she purred, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'm so sorry it's come to this. You know how much Adrian values loyalty." I looked at her calmly. "Do I? Because from where I stand, Adrian values control above all else. And you, Sophia, seem to value manipulation." Her smile faltered for just a moment before she regained her composure. "You always did have a sharp tongue. Unfortunately, sharp tongues don't pay legal bills." She guided me toward Adrian's corner office, her hand hovering near my elbow, without quite touching. Through the glass walls, I could see him inside, standing behind his massive desk like a king awaiting the execution of a peasant. 2 lawyers sat stiffly in leather chairs, their briefcases open and documents spread before them. "Mr. Blackwood is being very generous," Sophia continued as we walked. "The contract you signed when you started here has some very specific clauses about corporate espionage and breach of confidentiality. But if you cooperate today, he's willing to settle for just your inheritance money instead of pursuing criminal charges." I stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "My inheritance money? Don't play dumb, Elena. We know about the $200,000 your grandmother left you. It's not much, but it'll cover the damages you've caused by stealing proprietary information." I actually laughed, a sound that echoed off the glass walls and made several employees look up from their desks. "200,000? Is that what you think this is about?" Sophia's eyes narrowed. "We've seen your bank statements, Elena. We know exactly what you're worth." "You've seen Elena Martinez's bank statements," I corrected, emphasizing the name. "That's not quite the same thing." Before she could respond, Adrian's voice boomed from his office. "Bring her in, Sophia. I don't have all day for this nonsense." The office door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded remarkably like a trap springing shut. Adrian stood with his back to us, looking out at the city skyline he believed he commanded. At 34, he was undeniably handsome in that polished, expensive way that came from good genetics and better tailors. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his suit custom-fitted, his shoes Italian leather. Everything about him screamed power and privilege. "Sit down, Elena," he said without turning around. I remained standing. "I prefer to stand for this conversation." He finally turned, and I saw the cold satisfaction in his steel-gray eyes. For 3 years, I'd watched him wear that expression whenever he crushed someone beneath his heel. Today would be the last time. "As you wish." He moved to his desk and gestured to the documents spread across its surface. "These papers are very simple, Elena. A transfer agreement for your inheritance funds, plus a non-disclosure agreement that will keep you out of prison. All you have to do is sign." One of the lawyers, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, cleared his throat. "Miss Martinez, I should inform you that the evidence against you is quite substantial. Corporate espionage carries serious penalties." I walked closer to the desk, my cheap heels clicking against the hardwood. "What evidence would that be?" Adrian's smile was predatory. "Security footage of you accessing files you had no authorization to view. Email records showing you sent confidential information to outside parties. Financial records proving you've been conducting unauthorized research into our business dealings." "All true," I admitted, and Sophia gasped softly behind me. "Elena," she hissed. "You're not supposed to confess." I ignored her, keeping my eyes fixed on Adrian. I've been researching your business dealings very thoroughly. In fact, I've learned some fascinating things about Blackwood Industries' financial practices. Adrian leaned back in his chair, supremely confident. Whatever you think you've discovered, it's irrelevant now. You stole proprietary information, Elena. That makes you a criminal. I accessed information that was already mine, I said quietly. The lawyer with the glasses frowned. I'm sorry, could you clarify that statement? I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a manila folder, setting it down on Adrian's desk with deliberate care. 47% of Blackwood Industries belongs to Rivera Holdings. Rivera Holdings belongs to me. The silence that followed was beautiful. Adrian stared at the folder as if it might contain a bomb. Sophia's face had gone completely pale. The lawyers exchanged confused glances. That's impossible, Adrian said finally. Rivera Holdings is owned by some reclusive investor who's never shown his face. We've been dealing with his representatives for years. I opened the folder and spread the documents across his desk, right on top of his transfer agreements. Stock certificates, corporate filings, bank statements, all bearing the same name. Elena Rivera, I said, watching his face carefully. Not Martinez. Rivera. Adrian's eyes widened as he scanned the documents. You're lying. This is some kind of forgery. Call your lawyers, I suggested mildly. Have them verify the paperwork. I'll wait. Sophia stepped forward, her voice shaking slightly. Even if this is real, it doesn't matter. You still stole information. You still violated your employment contract. I turned to her with genuine amusement. My employment contract was signed under false pretenses. I was conducting authorized research into my own company. But speaking of violations, shall we discuss your embezzlement scheme? The blood drained from her face entirely. I don't know what you're talking about. The shell company you set up in the Cayman Islands. The consulting fees you've been paying yourself through fake invoices. The merger deals you've been sabotaging to drive down our stock price so you could buy shares cheaply. I pulled out another set of documents. I have 3 years' worth of evidence, Sophia. Every transaction, every fraudulent payment, every illegal trade. Adrian was still staring at my stock certificates in shock, but at this, his head snapped up. Sophia, what is she talking about? She's lying. Sophia protested, but her voice cracked. She's desperate, Adrian. She'll say anything to avoid prosecution. I walked over to Adrian's computer and logged into the company's financial system with my real credentials. Password, Rivera 2024. I've had administrative access to everything for 3 years, Adrian. I've been watching both of you very carefully. The screen lit up with financial records, bank transfers, email threads, everything Sophia had thought she'd hidden. Adrian's face went from shocked to furious in seconds. You've been stealing from my company, he said to Sophia, his voice deadly quiet. Our company, I corrected. And technically, she's been stealing from me more than you. Sophia backed toward the door, her carefully constructed composure finally cracking. This is insane. You can't just waltz in here and claim to own everything. Where have you been for 3 years? Why the charade? I sat down in the chair across from Adrian's desk, finally allowing myself to relax. I needed to understand what kind of man my business partner was. My father always said you can't truly know someone until you've seen how they treat people who can't fight back. Your father? Adrian's voice was barely a whisper. Victor Rivera. Perhaps you've heard of him? The lawyer with glasses made a strangled sound. Victor Rivera is dead. He died in a plane crash 3 years ago. I smiled. That's what we wanted people to think. In reality, he retired and handed control of his empire to me. He thought I needed to learn the business from the ground up, understand what it's really like to be powerless in a corporate environment. I gestured around the office. This has been my education, Adrian. 3 years of watching you humiliate employees, steal ideas, crush smaller companies. 3 years of Sophia embezzling money and manipulating stock prices. 3 years of building a case against both of you. Adrian suddenly stood up, his face flushed with rage. This is ridiculous. I don't care who you claim to be. You signed an employment contract. You agreed to confidentiality clauses. You violated those agreements. Actually, came a new voice from the doorway. She didn't. We all turned to see Lucas Sterling walking into the office, followed by a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Lucas looked as handsome as ever, his blonde hair slightly tousled, his blue eyes bright with intelligence and something that might have been admiration as he looked at me. "Lucas," Adrian snarled. "What the hell are you doing in my office?" Representing Miss Rivera's interests, Lucas replied smoothly. "Meet James Harrison, senior partner at Harrison, Webb & Associates. He's been handling Elena's legal affairs for the past 3 years." The lawyer set his briefcase down and opened it with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Blackwood, I have documentation proving that Miss Rivera's employment here was established under a temporary identity for legitimate business purposes. All her actions were authorized by her position as majority shareholder of this company." Sophia suddenly made a break for the door, but Lucas stepped smoothly into her path. "I wouldn't recommend leaving, Miss Chen. The SEC is very interested in your trading activities." "This is kidnapping," she gasped. "No," I said calmly. "This is justice." Adrian slammed his hand down on his desk. "Sign these papers now, or lose everything." He pointed at the transfer agreements with shaking fingers. "I don't care who you think you are. I built this company. You're nothing but a scheming little—" "Already signed," I interrupted, and his mouth snapped shut. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out another set of documents. "Your assets are mine, Adrian. As of this morning, I've executed a complete takeover of Blackwood Industries." I spread the papers across his desk: merger agreements, stock transfers, board resolutions. "The board voted unanimously to remove you as CEO and install me in your place. Apparently, they weren't very happy when I showed them evidence of your and Sophia's illegal activities." Adrian's face went white. "The board, they can't do this. I have controlling interest." "Had," I corrected. Past tense. "You owned 31%. I owned 47% through Rivera Holdings, and I just acquired another 22% from board members who were eager to distance themselves from a scandal." James Harrison nodded approvingly. "Miss Rivera now controls 69% of Blackwood Industries. Or should I say, Rivera Blackwood Industries. The name change will be effective Monday." "You can't do this," Sophia shrieked. "We'll sue. We'll fight this." "With what money?" Lucas asked mildly. "Your assets have been frozen pending investigation into your embezzlement scheme. And Adrian's personal wealth is tied up in company stock, which just became worthless to him." I stood up and walked around the desk to where Adrian sat slumped in his chair. For 3 years, he towered over me, made me feel small and insignificant. Now he looked up at me with something approaching desperation. "Why?" he asked hoarsely. "If you own the company, why work as a junior analyst? Why endure the humiliation?" "Because I needed to understand what kind of man you really were," I said softly. "My father built his empire on trust and respect. He treated his employees like family. I needed to see if you were worthy of being his partner." I gestured to Sophia, who was now crying actual tears as she realized the magnitude of her situation. "You surrounded yourself with thieves and yes-men. You treated me like dirt because you thought I was powerless. You stole ideas from your own employees and took credit for their work. You crushed smaller companies not because it was good business, but because you enjoyed the power." Adrian's hands were shaking now. "Elena, please. We can work this out. I can change. Give me another chance. The way you gave second chances to all the employees you fired, the way you showed mercy to the small businesses you destroyed." I shook my head. "I don't think so, Adrian." James Harrison cleared his throat. "Mr. Blackwood, we're prepared to offer you a severance package. 6 months' salary and continuation of your health insurance. In exchange, you'll sign a non-compete agreement and a statement accepting responsibility for the financial irregularities we've discovered. And if I refuse, then we'll pursue criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy," Lucas said cheerfully. "Your choice." Sophia collapsed into a chair, her perfect facade finally completely shattered. "This isn't fair," she sobbed. "We worked so hard to build this company. You worked hard to steal from this company, I corrected. And now you'll face the consequences. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. It was from my father. How did it go, Mija? Are you ready to come home? I typed back quickly. Mission accomplished. Coming home soon. Adrian was staring at the severance papers, his face a mask of defeat. 3 years, he muttered. You played a 3-year con on me. I prefer to think of it as a 3-year audit, I replied. And you failed spectacularly. He looked up at me one more time, and I saw something in his eyes that might have been respect. You're nothing like I thought you were. No, I agreed. I'm not. He signed the papers with hands that shook slightly, each signature marking the end of everything he'd thought he owned. When he finished, James Harrison efficiently gathered the documents and placed them in his briefcase. Security will escort you both from the building, Lucas informed them. Your personal items will be shipped to you. As they were led away, Adrian walking with forced dignity, Sophia still crying, I found myself alone in the office with Lucas. The city skyline stretched before us, the same view Adrian had gazed at with such arrogance just an hour ago. So, Lucas said, moving to stand beside me. How does it feel to finally drop the mask? I pulled off the cheap blazer and let it fall to the floor, then reached up and pulled the pins from my hair, letting it cascade down my shoulders. Liberating, I admitted. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be myself. For what it's worth, I think Elena Martinez was pretty amazing too. It takes incredible strength to endure what you did. I turned to look at him, this man who'd seen through my disguise months ago, but kept my secret. You never asked why I was doing it. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. He smiled, that warm expression that had sustained me through the worst days of my charade. Besides, I was having too much fun watching you work. And now I'm hoping Elena Rivera might be interested in dinner with a rival CEO who's completely in awe of her. I laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd allowed myself in 3 years. I think that can be arranged. Through the glass walls of the office, I could see employees gathering, whispering excitedly about the day's events. Tomorrow there would be press releases and news articles. Tomorrow I would begin the work of rebuilding this company into something my father would be proud of. But tonight, I would celebrate with a man who'd loved me when he thought I was nobody special, who'd respected Elena Martinez long before he knew she was Elena Rivera. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a news alert. Blackwood Industries acquired in surprise takeover by Rivera Holdings heiress. The story was already spreading, the business world buzzing with shock and speculation. Adrian Blackwood, the golden boy of corporate America, brought down by a woman he'd treated like dirt. Sophia Chun, facing federal charges and professional ruin. And me, finally stepping out of the shadows to claim what had always been mine. Lucas read the alert over my shoulder. No going back now. No, I agreed. But I wouldn't want to. I looked around the office one last time, at the desk where Adrian had tried to intimidate me, at the chairs where his lawyers had sat so smugly, at the windows that had witnessed his downfall. This room had been designed to make people feel small, insignificant, powerless. Tomorrow I would redecorate. The sun was setting over the city as Lucas and I left the building together, his hand warm in mine. Behind us, the empire I'd inherited was already transforming, loyal employees stepping up to fill the void left by corruption, honest practices replacing manipulation and greed. My phone rang one more time. This time it was my father's voice, warm with pride and love. Elena, Mija, I saw the news. Are you all right? I'm perfect, Papa, I said, and for the first time in 3 years, it was completely true. I'm finally perfect. Then come home, he said. Your real work is just beginning. I looked up at Lucas, who was watching me with those blue eyes full of understanding and support and something deeper that made my heart skip. Actually, Papa, I think my real work is just beginning right here. Because Elena Martinez had been a role I played, a mask I wore to learn hard truths about power and corruption. But Elena Rivera, she was who I truly was. And she had a company to run, a legacy to honor, and a future to build with a man who'd seen her worth even when she was pretending to be ordinary. The game was over. I'd won. And this was only the beginning.